The former soldier-turned-politician has served as Defence Secretary under 3 Prime Ministers. Ben Wallace's 4 years in the job have been non-stop. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Afghanistan evacuation, a global pandemic, the fight for funds from the Treasury, and trying to tackle recruitment and retention challenges in the armed forces, all under his watch.
Defence has never really stopped, and ultimately I wasn't going to stand at the next election. I think it's only fair to the sitting Prime Minister that he goes into the next election with a Defence Secretary that's not going to say 6 weeks before, I'm off.
The former Scots Guards Army officer played a high-profile role in the UK's response when Russia invaded Ukraine. He oversaw the transfer of weapons and vehicles to its army and the training of its troops in the UK.
Britain has said that we have a cadre of experienced non-commissioned officers and soldiers who can help train. Some of the people you've met today have actually been in Ukraine a few years before training the Ukrainians. We'll bring you to the United Kingdom. We'll help equip you and train you and get you ready to go back into the war. And while you're doing that, you'll be free from interference or danger.
As British troops raced against the clock to get remaining UK nationals and local allies out of Afghanistan as the Taliban retook the country in 2021, Mr Wallace appeared visibly moved during an interview with LBC.
And it's a really deep part of regret for me. Some people won't get back. Some people won't get back, and we will have to do our best in third countries to process those people.
Throughout his tenure, he's campaigned for higher defence spending amidst the continuing squeeze on government budgets. He secured a real terms increase of £24 billion over 4 years from 2020. He's overseen cuts to the size of the army alongside continued headlines about troubled procurement programmes. Mr Wallace also had to coordinate the military's response to the global pandemic.
Defence's contribution to the COVID response now represents the most significant domestic resilience operation in peacetime, and more personnel are committed on UK resilience tasks today than at any time since the pandemic.
After 2021's Defence Command paper focused on new kit and equipment, the 2023 refresh was very much focused on people, aiming to tackle problems with work-life balance, job satisfaction and the quality of service accommodation.
We are transforming our forces overall employment offer to make sure by adopting a total reward approach to provide a much more compelling and competitive incentive package. And since all our armed forces personnel deserve the best quality accommodation, we are injecting a further £400 million to improve our service accommodation in the next 2 years.
Also under Mr Wallace's watch, 23 years since the ban on LGBT people serving in the armed forces was lifted, the long-awaited report into their treatment was published, bringing with it an apology from the Prime Minister and this from the Defence Secretary.
The part of the report that talks about institutional homophobia is true. You read it. I was part of that army. I was determined to give this statement today rather than my excellent colleague because I wanted to recognise that I had been part of that thinking and army that I deeply regret.
Satisfaction with service life amongst the services has fallen for 2 consecutive years by 8 percentage points, from 50% to 42% between 2021 and 2023, highlighting ongoing issues with the retention of troops. He had wanted his next challenge to be taking the top job as Secretary-General of NATO after Jens Stoltenberg, but then he ruled himself out, saying he'd failed to garner enough support, stating that the US would prefer if the current NATO chief stayed in the role, which has now been extended. Mr Wallace said he was quitting frontline politics partly due to the toll it had taken on his family and would not be standing at the next general election.
I wanted to, sort of go on my terms, and I think it is probably really important for the mental health of myself and my family that you leave on a high.
It's not clear what's next for him, but his successor inherits a full inbox of challenges as the war in Ukraine shows no sign of stopping. Shangwezchek, Forces News. Thanks for watching. For more from Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.